Ms. Howell, you've characterized offshore oil and gas development as being solely about the money, I think is essentially what you said. Let's set aside the fact that this industry is essential for powering our homes, ensuring our national security and our national defense, and maintaining our transportation systems. Just a yes or no question. Are you aware that the United States is currently over $36 trillion in debt, with each American effectively owing more than $106,000?
I am.
Did you know that the Congressional Budget Office projects that under current spending trends, 50% of every dollar collected will soon be allocated solely to servicing the debt?
I am.
I emphasize the importance of affordable energy. In the Pacific Northwest, hydropower provides electricity at rates as low as 5 to 7 cents per kilowatt hour, while wind power in the same region was projected to cost as much as 84 cents per kilowatt hour. And it might not be about the money for you, but for families struggling to pay their utility bills, businesses trying to stay competitive in a nation striving to maintain energy security, affordability is critical. And I would say, without reliable and cost-effective energy, the economic stability and national defense capabilities that underpin modern American life are put at serious risk. My colleague talked about wind power. I'm for wind power. I'm not for wind subsidies. I'm not for any kind of subsidies to these industries. But I was interested to note that he didn't talk about birds getting hit by wind turbines. We sort of selectively choose the types of energy that we think are good or not good, rather than letting the market take place on those things. I would just ask, Mr. Wilson, I would ask you, do you know, what other countries are doing offshore drilling in the world?
Pretty much anybody who can. Russia, certainly. Qatar, certainly. In Africa, they're going to have to rely on offshore drilling to get the energy they need.
What's the difference in environmental standards between those countries and the United States? Is the United States, would you say we're one of the cleaner ones?
I would say we are the cleanest.
Yeah. So what's the impact if they're doing it to the globe versus us doing some of it here and exporting that energy?
If we are not producing oil and gas for export, they will produce it, and it'll be a lot dirtier.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Chason, any thoughts on that?
I think Mr. Wilson said it exactly correct. If we need to be aggressively producing energy, whatever that energy is, in our country, because we have a need in our country, and there's a need around the world. And if we can provide cleaner energy, whatever that type of energy may be, for ourselves and for people around the world, we need to be doing that.
Okay. Mr. Tarpley?
I agree, and I think a lot of the discussion earlier, we need to just make a point here, this talk of the sacrifice zones and indicating that you can't produce oil and gas and have a good community, that should be summarily rejected. It just simply isn't true. I live in the Gulf Coast. 370,000 people that work offshore live in the Gulf Coast. We have an excellent community. We vacation there. We swim in the ocean. It's beautiful. There's tourism. We can have both. And I think that's important to remember.
Yeah, it's a false choice, much like saying if you get in your car to drive somewhere, you're going to die in a car crash. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to die. There is that potential. But it is a false choice, a false narrative created by many. You're shaking your head, Ms. Howell.
Oh, I'd
you
love to
disagree?
respond to that. Do you live next to a refinery?
You're
Chemical plant?
not to ask
The
the
chair,
other
the
witness.
chair, the
I
chair
forgot, I
intervened.
forgot.
Ma'am, you can't ask the other panelists. You're
Thank
here to
you.
take the questions, and I'm going to give Representative Crank 10 seconds back.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll yield back the balance of my time.
Mr. Crank?